Hi, everyone. Molly Galbraith here, co-founder and woman in charge at Girls Gone Strong, and author of the brand new book, Strong Women Lift Each Other Up. Thank you all so much for joining me here today for this live signing event. I am here with my dear friend, Coach Colleen Elridge. She is the creator of the Empower Her Conference, and she's a coach who helps women live and work better. She is also featured in the book and read the book, and I'm just so grateful to have her here. Her name's on the back of the book. I'm so excited to have her here helping moderate this event and asking me the questions that you all submitted. Now, don't forget, you can also submit questions live during the event. We will do our best to get to everything. Colleen, thank you so much for being here and agreeing to be part of this, and for all the ways that you have helped support me in this book.
Of course, Molly, I am so excited. I'm so proud of you. I feel like we've been talking about this book for a couple of years now, and so I cannot believe that the day is finally actually here in real life to celebrate such a big accomplishment. So I'm honored to be here because, as a friend and as someone who I truly love and admire, this book is going to change lives. Like, I was just telling you right before we got on, I was rereading certain chapters again today in preparation for this, and it's just so good. It's so good, Molly. It's so good. So all of you all that are joining us, I hope that you either have gotten your copy or are excited to get your copy, because this book is going to rock your world and it's going to change lives. And I truly believe it's going to create a better world for all of us to live in. So one of the things that they wanted us to start with is kind of how we know each other. So
yes, I would love to. Yes, if you haven't gotten your book, there's a link in this post right now. You can get an autographed copy. I'm going to be signing these live for you all. So yeah, let's talk about how we know each other. You want to start, or you want me to?
Well, I'd love to hear your perspective on how we first met each other.
Own a brick and mortar gym in Lexington, Kentucky, and I had a client named Deborah Locker. And what I remember is at one point she just told me, I have a friend that you absolutely have to meet. Her name is Colleen Elridge. And I think we ended up meeting for like coffee and tea at the place next door to my gym, right? That was like 10 years ago.
Yep. That's it. We had this mutual friend, and she said, you all need to know each other. And it's so interesting because your name kept coming up in conversations with other people that I knew, like, oh, you know Molly. Like, of course you know Molly. And so I felt like I knew you, even though we hadn't actually met yet. And so we met up for tea, and it was like a 2-hour instant connection. Like, where have you been my whole life, right?
Yes,
and now
absolutely.
You're like my favorite person to get tacos with. So
yeah, favorite person to eat chips and queso. And like, I just love the way that we have been able to like spend time together in person as friends. We've also done work together. So you've done consulting for Girls Gone Strong, helping us do like our mission, our vision, our values, helping us with our hiring practices at Girls Gone Strong. Like, it has just been so amazing to get to know you in person in life over chips and queso, and then also watch you step in and help lead the Girls Gone Strong team and help us, make sure that we're living and working better as an organization. And I'm just so grateful for your friendship, and to be able to work together and feature you in the book and just, do cool stuff together. So, okay, I should probably start signing these books. I'm like so excited and so into it.
Start signing. And while you sign, I'm just going to ask a few questions that hopefully you can write and talk at the same time. So why this book right now?
That's probably my favorite question. So as I said, I've been in health and fitness for 17 years. I've been with Girls Gone Strong for over 10 years. And we have over 1 million women in the Girls Gone Strong community. And, we're the world's largest platform providing evidence-based, interdisciplinary health, fitness, nutrition, and pregnancy information for women and professionals who work with them. So essentially what that means is we work with a lot of awesome women's health professionals to provide research-backed education about health and fitness for women and people who work with them. And in doing the work with the women in our community, helping them with their nutrition, their exercise, their, mental health, their pre and postnatal health, I noticed two really important themes kept coming up. And that was so many women were struggling with what I call in the book scarcity mindsets, this idea that they're not good enough, they're not pretty enough, fit enough, lean enough, they're not successful enough, they're not a good enough parent, they're not doing enough good in the world. And so many of them were struggling with these feelings. And at the same time, they were feeling like other women also were their competition. So they were struggling with jealousy, feeling like, if this woman gets this spot, then there's less left for me. And so I was noticing kind of that theme. And then on the other hand, I was also noticing so many women wanting to create change in the world. They wanted their life and their work to matter. They would be watching something happening on TV, an atrocity, and they would want to get involved and help in some capacity. And they were running into three big problems. Number one, they didn't know what to do. So they didn't know what actions to take. They'd see something happening on TV and they'd say, I want to help, but I don't know how. Number two, they felt like that they were just one person. And so they felt like that they couldn't make a big enough difference. And number three, they were either being criticized or were afraid of being criticized for what they were doing or not doing. And so they were wanting to do something. And so they were struggling with these feelings of not good enough, not pretty enough, thin enough. Other women are my competition. At the same time, they're wanting to create change in the world. And, when we look around and we see that only 7% of Fortune 500 CEOs are women, and we see that US Congress is only 27% women, and we see that, heads of state globally, only 11% prime minister, chancellor are women. We see less than 3% of venture capital funding going to businesses founded wholly by women. And it feels like there's less opportunity for us because at this moment in time, there is. But when we buy into that as normal, when we go to a conference and we see 10 speakers and we see one or two of them are women, well, we think that that's normal, then we're more likely to compete with each other for those spots instead of demanding more for ourselves and each other. So it creates this feed forward cycle. If there's a conference that you and I both want to speak at and we think there's one spot for a woman, I'm less likely to recommend you if I think that we have to duke it out for that spot instead of saying, hey, why is there only one spot for a woman? Why aren't there 5 spots out of 10? Or why don't we go create our own conference and create more spots for ourselves and our sisters? And so we see women feeling like other women are their competition. So they're not coming together to do the work that it's going to take to create a better life and world for women. So I saw this feed forward cycle. So this book is about helping women overcome that scarcity mindset, to understand other women aren't their competition, to believe that they're good enough just as they are, and then give them the actionable tools to come together, to work together, to overcome this lack of opportunity for women. And I didn't want it to just be a rally cry. I wanted it to be a how-to guide. I've read so many books that inspire and motivate me, and at the end, I have no idea what to do next. And I didn't want that to be this book. I wanted it to be a playbook for how women can change their own lives and change the world. And it felt like there was no better time to start than today.
Yeah. I think, after I read the first copy of this, like the digital copy, I think I texted you and I said, one of the things that makes this book so great is the action steps. Like, you have not just action steps. It's like, here's what you can do, right? Do this first, try this next, try this next. But there are like worksheets in this book as well to really help you understand some of these concepts that you talk about in the book. That is what makes it a game changer. The information in it is so great, but you are so right. It's, then what do I do with it? You left us saying, with no excuse, to not take action moving forward. And that is what I think makes this book so unique and so, so good. One of the things that you mentioned, Molly, is, this competition and this scarcity. And I think this book is so important right now because of the statistics that we see about women in the workplace, specifically in the time of COVID, right? And so as I was thinking about this today, I'm like, man, there's so many women that need this book right now as we start to reemerge from COVID, where I do think there's going to be this level of competitiveness for new jobs and promotions, and what are we going to do now that we're reemerging, that I want us to start to demand more, right? One of my big goals is, how do I get more women at the seats, at the tables with voice? How do we do that, right? And this book, I think, will definitely start to help with that. Definitely will start to help with that. You started to talk about seeing the scarcity mindset in women. And I will be honest, chapter 4 is my favorite chapter in the whole book. Let me just open it up to chapter 4. I put the handy little bookmark that you sent me there. Chapter 4, overcoming comparison and jealousy. And when I read this chapter, I thought, one, I need to reread that again because this is a trap that's so easy for so many women to fall into, right? And I love that you start off with just like this example of times that you felt a little jealous and what that mindset did for you. And I think in the age of social media, this trap is so easy to fall into. Talk to me a little bit about, this idea of jealousy and comparison, not just in the age of social media, but I also think in the age of like a highlight reel, right? Like, how do you think that factors into the mindset that a lot of women carry around with them? And how's that harmful to all of us if we're all like comparing each other?
Yeah, absolutely. So we spend so much time consuming media and particularly social media every single day. And hopefully by now in 2021, people understand that much of what they see on social media is someone's curated highlight reel, right? It's the things that they want people to see. And I actually think that that's why people love stories actually even more than feed, because it's a little bit more like real kind of behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, so people are putting out there this curated version of what they want people to see of what their life looks like. And I do think it's gotten a little bit better in some ways over time in terms of people being willing to be more authentic on there. But when you look around and you see all of these curated images of people's lives to make you feel like, their body looks a certain way, their clothes always look a certain way, they've got their hair and makeup done, they've, have a perfect relationship, their kids are always well behaved, they're so successful, they've got the cars and the house and all that kind of stuff. It's so easy to feel like you don't measure up. And particularly, and I talk about this in chapter 3 as well, there's an exercise in the book that I learned from Dr. Larissa Mercado Lopez, who's a curriculum developer for Girls Gone Strong. And she says, Google the image fit woman. And you can go on there and you can do that with healthy woman, fit woman, successful woman. And when you look at the images that you see, almost all of them fit a very particular mold. They're pretty much all young women, white women, lean women, traditionally feminine presenting women, women who don't have any visible disabilities. And so we see at least 4,000 to 10,000 images a day. That's what media scholar Jean Kilbourne says. And so we see 4,000 to 10,000 images a day, but only about 8% of them are processed by our conscious mind. So the other 92% is seeping in and shaping what we think to be right and true and good about the world. So when we see 4,000 to 10,000 times a day and we're processing, this is what healthy looks like, this is what successful looks like, this is what fit looks like, this is what, this particular, person who fits this mold looks like. It's so hard as, creatures who are, used to like social network and connection and stuff, not to say, okay, well, how do I measure up to this person, right? When the images that we're seeing are curated, photoshopped, airbrushed, perfected, then it's so easy for us to say, okay, well, where's the difference between me and this person? And to feel like we don't measure up. And so over and over and over again, every single day, we're seeing these images that oftentimes aren't even that's not even what that person looks like or what their life is like, right? And so it's so easy to compare ourselves and feel like we don't measure up. And I want to be clear in the distinguishing the difference between, using comparison as a motivator for like how we can do things better or how we can improve, I think can be really powerful, right? Like when I was working on this book, I was certainly looking at other books out there that people had created that I thought were incredibly transformative and beautiful and remarkable, and saying, okay, where can I take cues from what this person did and implement it in my own life? I wasn't using it to say, I'm the worst, I can't do this, they're better than me, my book's going to be terrible, right? I was able to use it as a positive motivator to say, okay, what about this can I use actually as a compass to help guide me, instead of saying, am I not measuring up and how is this person doing it better than me?
And this is something that I wish more women specifically understood and really took to heart, right? I do think that there is a place and a time where you can look at a woman, and I remember even for myself having a moment where I saw a woman do a really successful conference, and I felt myself getting jealous, right? I felt myself saying like, well, who is she and why does she get to do that? And I remember just like having this moment of clarity that said, no, if she can do it, then you can do it too, right? And I think we don't give ourselves the permission or the gift of saying, if they can do it, let me use that as proof and let me use that as motivation that I could do it as well. Because jealousy is like what we're taught from such a young age as women, right? If she has it, that means you can't have it, versus she can have it and you can have it. And you can both be successful in very different ways. So
Yeah,
that was my favorite chapter.
and she's blazing a trail for you. And I actually give like create this chart in the end of chapter 4 about how to use your values filter to determine if you actually want something for yourself. And so I don't dive into values deeply until chapter 5, but it's like, okay, I find myself feeling jealous of this woman. Let me take a second. Let me kind of notice how I'm feeling. And it's like, okay, so why am I feeling jealous? And it's like, do I want what she has? If the answer is no, then it's like, okay, cool. You've created that little bit of space. You realize you don't have to feel jealous, right? But if you say yes, okay, is what she has aligned with my values and what I want for myself? And if the answer is no, then again, you can create a little bit of space and be like, okay, it's not what I want for myself, right? But if the answer is yes, then you could say, okay, great. How can I take what she's doing and learn from what she's doing to then implement it in my life? I can use it as a compass to drive me forward. And so I love that idea of am I willing to do what it takes to get the thing? And then using that to drive us forward instead of using it to feel worse about ourselves.
Love that. You know, one of the other things that I loved about this book is I felt, because I know you, I felt like it was very intentional with the level and the amount of diversity that you had in this book. It That piece really made me like tear up to think about, because I know you and I know how much work you have done on yourself and work you've done to be inclusive. And I do think it shows just the level of which you really, really have the heart for lifting other women up, right? Talk to me about how you came to find the women that are in this book.
Yes. Thank you for that. That makes me so happy, Colleen, to know that that jumped out at you because it was so intentional. I wanted, I'm very aware of kind of my positionality, right? I am young, I am white, I am fit, I am, well educated. I don't have any visible disabilities. And so I wanted to be so intentional in writing this book that this wasn't just a book for women who check all of those boxes. I wanted all women to feel seen, whether they are Black women, Indigenous women, women of color, trans women, women in the LGBTQIA plus community, women in larger bodies. Like I wanted them to feel seen and acknowledged and cared for and to see themselves on the pages of this book, because we need all of us to be able to create this change. And I think it's so important to recognize that some women at this point in time have more power and authority and opportunity than ever. And yet so many women are still being left behind. So many women are on the margins of this movement. And there's a really interesting illustration that I've seen go around where it kind of talks about, it's like this wheel of privilege, right? And it's like the farther out you are in terms of ability, in terms of education, in terms of skin color, in terms of socioeconomic status, the more on the margins you are. And so it was really important to me to create a book where not only all women felt seen and heard and validated, but all women could participate in the activities. So the first half of the book is about getting right with yourself, and the second half of the book is actionable ways to lift women up. And chapter 7, my goal with that was to create ways that all of us can lift women up in our everyday lives, even if we don't have money or a lot of time or access to resources or influence or network or platform. I didn't want women to read this book and be like, well, that's fine. You can do all those things, Molly, but I can't do those things. Right. And so it was such a blessing to have so many amazing women in my own life that I got to feature in this book. So again, through the work that we do at Girls Gone Strong, we have always, just had access to work with so many incredible women. And again, have been very intentional, particularly in the last several years, about bringing together a diverse group of experts to create our curriculum for our certifications and our coaching program and our articles, because again, we want all women to feel seen and validated. So we do everything we can to create the information and education through an inclusive intersectional lens. And that means I get access to incredible women like you, to women like Dr. Larissa Mercado Lopez, a woman, amazing Nike master trainer and co-owner of Fit Squad, Jennifer Lau, is included in the book. Our dear mutual friend, Emily Ho of Authentically Emmy, is included in the book, which was so exciting. So I was able to tap into this amazing network of women that are already involved with the Girls Gone Strong community and interview them. And then, of course, was able to, highlight women that I don't have relationships with yet. Jamil, call me. Tarana Burke, call me. It was able
and
to.
then loop me in too, Molly. Loop me in, because I love those women too. Yeah.
I'm bringing you in the room with me, sister. Yes. So I was able to talk about or highlight or share stories or spotlights of amazing women like that who are doing fantastic work. So I tried to tap into my own network that I already have through Girls Gone Strong. Another woman, Sonia R. Price Herbert of Black Girl Pilates. She's written articles for Girls Gone Strong, Chrissy King, Janae Marie Kroc. I was able to, tap into all of them. And so that was really exciting. And then to even kind of extend things a little bit further and highlight women that I don't have relationships with yet, but love their stories and love how they embody lifting women up in their life and their work.
Yeah. So you mentioned something just a second ago about how the book really does take you on this journey, and you kind of start with yourself, and then it goes to like, what can I do to help lift up a group of women, or what can we do to help lift up a group of women? And then I think it kind of moves to like organizations and really this idea of like the future of lifting women up. And again, brilliant, Molly, because I was like, yeah, you can't get to the group or organizations or the future if you don't understand how to lift yourself up and the things that might be preventing you from lifting other women up are the things that you might be struggling with internally. So I just want to say, like, that was brilliant. That was truly such a smart move. And I thought it really showed that you get how things move, right? Like how things move forward. So I loved that part. I also love that you mentioned chapter 7, because chapter 7 was the next chapter that I have all marked up in my book. Because I love that you did give women easy ways to take small daily actions. And you're right. I think sometimes it is easy to say, oh, well, of course you can do that. Or of course they could do that, but I couldn't do that. And I love that you start with something simple like give a woman a compliment, right? Why do you think something that small that a lot of us take for granted is so transformative?
Yes. Well, I'm so glad that you like chapter 7. Again, 17 years in health and fitness, but I really consider myself to be a coach who helps women get from where they are now to where they want to be. So many of the concepts that we used in this book are borrowed from the field of behavior change psychology. So how do we actually get the person to do the thing that we want them to do, right? Like, for example, we all know that it would be a good idea if we ate more vegetables, or if we went for a walk, or like, did some meditation or got enough sleep, but it's really hard to implement that stuff into our lives. So I, again, borrowed a ton of the concepts that we teach at Girls Gone Strong and in our coaching programs and our certifications to actually help people do the thing. And so it was really important to me to just lower the barrier for people to get started implementing this stuff into their life. And so something as simple as a genuine compliment, I know, like, that one, I was a little hesitant to start off with it because it sounds like such a fluffy strategy. Like, oh, you just give somebody a compliment. What does that do, right? But it is so powerful because of something called the ripple effect. And so I talk about the ripple effect in chapter 3, but the ripple effect is this idea that every action, well, first of all, every action we take is a vote in favor of who we want to be and the kind of world we want to live in. And what I demonstrate with the ripple effect is this idea that, okay, let's say one week I decide to lift 2 women up in my life. And the next week, each of those 2 women decide to lift up 2 other women. And then each of those women decide to lift up 2 other women. Within 10 weeks, 2,046 women will have been lifted up. I think I have it right here. 2,046 women, if you can see it, will have been lifted up by each of us just choosing to do something small to lift up 2 other women in our lives. So take something as simple as a genuine compliment, right? Let's say, again, we work with a lot of health and fitness professionals. Let's say I'm a health and fitness professional. I see someone else who is, as well and is online, and they're providing a lot of great education on their Instagram page. If I'm going to reach out and say, hey, Colleen, I see what you're doing on Instagram. You're doing such a good job. You are so funny. It's such a great combination of education and entertainment. Keep it up. Like, you are really helping people. I mean, that one compliment from you could do a number of things. It could inspire you to be like, you know what, I am doing a really good job. And, come to think of it, I don't think that I have been charging what I'm worth with my clients. Maybe I should bump my rates up a little bit because I really am getting better at this thing. Or maybe it gives you the confidence to stand up to somebody in your life who's maybe being overbearing or who doesn't believe in you, right? Maybe it gives you the confidence to, if this health and fitness thing is your side hustle, maybe it gives you the confidence to go after your dreams and make it your full-time gig. And then the ripple effect happens. So let's say you raise your prices and you're talking to some of your other friends in the health and fitness industry, and you're like, yeah, I, bumped all my rates up by this amount and I didn't lose any clients or only lost 1 client. And they're like, oh, it's been a while since I've done that. Maybe I should do that, right? That helps eventually close the gender wage gap in the health and fitness industry. Maybe your daughter sees you stand up for yourself and it inspires her to learn how to set boundaries and, not listen to people who doubt her. Maybe you quitting your full-time job and making health and fitness coaching your full, you're going after that and turning it from a side hustle into a full-time business, then inspires other women to do the same. I mean, you never know what stuff like that can do. One story that didn't make it into the book that my dear friend Chrissy King shared with me. So I talk about Chrissy in the book. She does incredible work. And she started out in health and fitness coaching, and now she's a speaker, writer, does a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion work within the health and fitness space. And she told me maybe a year or so ago that when we first asked her to write an article for Girls Gone Strong, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that literally asking her to write that one article and paying her for the article was a light bulb moment that she could actually get paid for being a writer in the health and fitness space. And it inspired her to put herself out there to do more health and fitness writing. And her work over time has evolved into, she wrote a blockbuster article called Is Fitness Only for Thin White Women? And it really catapulted her into this space of combining diversity, equity, and inclusion work with health and fitness. But she said a huge catalyst for her was asking her to write one article and giving her money for it. And that just spurred her. Of course, she gets the praise for being an incredible person who's doing all that work. But she said being asked to do that thing was kind of the catalyst for her and all of the work that she does now. And she's doing just such incredible stuff, changing women's lives, helping so many women in the industry feel seen. And it started with asking her to do one thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, it started with recognizing her ability and then asking, right? Because I think so many times we recognize someone as an awesome person and we forget to ask them to do what they're good at, and pay them to do what they're good at. So one of the things in that chapter 2 that I thought was so great is you talk about endorsing and recommending another woman, but I love that you give very specific, here's how to do it, right? Here is a script for how to do that. Here's a script for an email that you can send. I just think it helps eliminate a lot of the excuses that we can give ourselves about why we can't do something. And that's why I truly did love Start with a Compliment too, right? Because it's who can't give a compliment? It starts with something that easy, but something that simple and that easy has these huge impacts across the way. So brilliant. I mean, it's just so good. One of the other things that made me cry was in the conclusion. First, the quote at the beginning of the conclusion: what if instead of longing for ease, we were made for more, made to advocate, made to dig in, made to speak out, made to dive into nuance, made for complexity, made for this moment? What if we believed so deeply in our own capacity to rise to this occasion that getting to work wasn't a tiring chore, but a life-giving opportunity to invest in something larger than ourselves? That's Austin Channing Brown. Like, that quote got me. But then after I was reading it and I got to just page 269, these like 6 simple words: in other words, we need you. And for some reason that it almost will make me cry now, because I think that we forget, one, that all of us have purpose on this earth. And I think that those 6 simple words were just a great reminder that we need you, whoever you are, to live into the purpose of why you are here. But honestly, when I read it, it was like my friend Molly just reminding me, like, Colleen, we need you. Like, we need you to be in this world, and we need you to show up, and we need you to be proud of the things that you bring to the table. So I just want to reiterate how great this book is, but I want to get to some questions, some fan questions.
And I will tell people, if they don't have their copy yet, there's a link in this post to go to premiercollectibles.com/strong, and that's Premier with an E, but you should be able to find the link in this post. Make sure you get your autographed copy. I am signing them right now. I got a lot to sign, so I would love for you to get one in your hands. And yes, let's get to the questions from the awesome people who submitted them.
Awesome. So first up, we have a question from Hannah from Denver, Colorado. And Hannah says, how do you get your confidence back when people seem negative towards you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Confidence is something that so many women struggle with. And, I think there's a lot to that question, right? Because it's like, number one, why do we have people in our lives who are being negative towards us in the first place? A big concept that I talk a lot about in the book is curating your environment. And that's not just your social media environment or not just your home. It's also the people that you allow into your life. And I'm not someone who's going to act like it's easy to cut important people out of your life, right? If it's a parent or a sibling or a, longtime friend or something like that, I understand it's not as easy to be like, I don't want you in my life, right? But I think that paying attention to who we're spending a lot of time around is really important. So changing the inputs that we're getting is important, surrounding ourselves with people who lift us up and believe in us. And I always say the best way to be surrounded by people who lift you up is to first be someone who lifts other people up, because that's such a powerful way to attract that into your life. And I think setting boundaries is really important. That's something that I talk about a lot in chapter 6. So how are we teaching people how to treat us? And I think, it's always a little bit tricky to put the onus of responsibility on us when someone else is treating us unkindly, but all we can control is our own behavior. And so I think learning how to set boundaries with people and teaching them how to treat us, and boundaries are just essentially what is okay and what is not okay in a relationship. And there are boundaries around things, around money, and around things that we own. There's boundaries around our time and our energy, and there's physical and mental and emotional and sexual, and there's all these different boundaries, right? So it's just what is okay within our relationship. So I think learning how to set boundaries with people is really important. And I think overcoming our own self-doubt is so important. So many of us, again, it ties into that scarcity mindset. We feel like we're not good enough. We doubt ourselves and our abilities. And in chapter 6, I give a ton of steps for overcoming self-doubt, because when we believe in ourselves, what other people say to us matters significantly less. Now, I'm not going to pretend, something never kind of gets through and, stings a little bit. But when you believe in yourself and your abilities, believe in your worth, and are steadfast in your values, what people say to you matters significantly less. And so I'm not here to just be like, believe in yourself, stop doubting yourself. It's like, no, there are actual steps that you can do in this book that I walk you through. And one of the first ones is noticing and naming whenever you're doubting yourself. And so I hammer that concept in this book because, again, it's borrowed from the field of behavior change psychology. So it's like when we find ourselves doubting ourselves, if we notice and name and say, I'm feeling insecure right now, I'm feeling jealous right now, I'm feeling like I'm not good enough right now, not only does that raise our level of awareness, but it also helps reduce the intensity of the emotion if we can name out loud how we're feeling, which is really powerful. And then I encourage, teach women in the book and encourage women in the book to retrain their brain. So I give you specific questions that you can ask yourself to start to change the way that you're thinking about yourself, and to actually start more positive thoughts and believe in yourself more. I also give a really tangible example of record your accomplishments and compliments, you all. I'm telling you, have a folder in your email, have a notes thing on your phone, record when people say nice things to you, when you accomplish things, when you have a certain success, when someone tells you they care about you. Like, keep that stuff handy so that whenever you are doubting yourself, then you can turn to that and you can remember who the heck you are. Because like negativity bias is so strong, and that's the idea that, like, if you've ever had a good day where like amazing things are happening all day, and then all of a sudden one small bad thing happens, you're like, it's the worst day ever. Humans have a tendency to focus on the negative. We have a proclivity to remember the negative feedback. We just tend to focus on that. So if you can keep this folder of your accomplishments and compliments, it is going to be so helpful for you. And then I have a couple other steps in the book. I won't spoil them all here, but those are some really great places to get started. So make sure that you are curating your environment and paying close attention to who you're spending time with and how they're treating you. Make sure you are setting boundaries with people so that they understand what behavior is okay and what behavior is not okay. And then use the tips in the book to overcome self-doubt. And there are a bunch of them in there, but a couple of them are to notice and name when you're doubting yourself, to retrain your brain. And there are questions in here that you can ask yourself to do that. And then record your accomplishments and compliments so that when you need a little boost, you have those handy so that you can remember who you are.
That's awesome. One of my favorite things I have is an I'm awesome folder. And it's just that, it's like when someone sends me a nice compliment, I store it in there. If I'm having a not great day, that's the first place I go to, and it is a game changer. Let's look at a question from Erica from Pittsburgh. Erica wants to know if you had a funny story that you wish you could have included in the book, but couldn't find a way to fit it in.
Oof, that is a good one. So I actually, the book is entertaining, but there's some funny spots in there, but I don't know that I would call it like funny book.
Right.
There's one that I did get to include where I talked about my dad picking up a hitchhiker on the side of the road and giving away his last pair of pants. He came home covered in a towel, and my mom asked where his pants were, and he said he gave them to a guy who seemed like they needed them. And my mom's like, that was your last pair of pants, Gatewood. I also, that's been a story that didn't make it in the book. I would say that I talk about this chapter on forgiveness. And my dad, when he started, he got on this big forgiveness kick several years before he passed away. And he started calling everyone and telling them that he forgave them for things they had done and that he wanted their forgiveness for things he had done. But the problem is when someone doesn't think that they've done something that needs your forgiveness, that can get a little awkward. So there's a funny story of him. He was a activist and politician and ran for office and had views that spanned both sides of the aisle, more progressive and more conservative. And so he had friends and enemies on both sides of the political aisle. But he approached a guy one day and said, Bob, I want to ask your forgiveness. And he said, no, Bob, I want to forgive you. And Bob's like, for what? And he's like, well, for being a piece of crap crony of the, such and such party. And he's like, and I want to ask your forgiveness. And he's like, ask it for what? He's like, well, for me telling everybody you're a piece of crap crony of the whatever party. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is something that my dad would do. So I tell that story. That story didn't make it into the book, but I think it's a really funny example of my dad and who he was. And that one couldn't quite make it in though.
As someone who did know your dad as well, I could totally see him doing that and saying that. So that is hilarious. Lindsay in Waco, Texas wants to know, what is your proudest moment?
Oh, honestly, it sounds cliche, but this book and getting to hold it in my hands and knowing the amount of effort that went into it and the people who went into making it happen is my most important, proudest moment. I think it is my most important work to date. And getting to work on it with the incredible crew. I mean, my name is on the front cover. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of people who went into making this happen, and getting to work with such an incredible team to create something that we believe is so timely and remarkable and important and actionable is like the greatest honor of my life. And I hope when you get this book that you make sure you flip and read all the way to the gratitudes to see all the people who helped make this possible, from the women like Colleen, who I interviewed, to Camille DePutter, who was a storytelling editor and writing partner on this book, to my partner, Casey, my life and business partner, who sat next to me for 41 days, 7 to 11 hours a day, polishing the manuscript after we got it back, to Sarah Williamson, who designed a beautiful interior and did most of the book cover as well. Like, getting to do important work that I believe will change the world with people I love is like, it doesn't get any better than that. So I would have to say that getting this book, giving birth to this book, putting it out into the world and believing that it's going to change lives has to be my proudest moment.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So Deborah in Savannah, Georgia. I think this is actually a great question, because you are known in the fitness industry, right? So you kind of built a brand on fitness, and I love your all's approach to fitness. So Deborah in Savannah wants to know, do you still have a passion for working out?
Yes, I do very much. And yeah, I got my start in health and fitness, and I absolutely agree that there are people who join health and fitness because it changes their lives and then they kind of lose interest in it over time. For me, I still love health and fitness so deeply. And my perspective on health and fitness has expanded a lot over the years. So when Girls Gone Strong started in 2011, I was 7 years into my career. It was a lot about strength training and cardio and nutrition, and a couple years later, we expanded that and started talking more about body image and mental health and pre and postnatal health. And then we started expanding it a little bit farther, talking about body autonomy and agency and women, feeling in charge of their lives and their bodies. And then we expanded it even farther to be like, okay, well, there's a social justice component to this. It's about access, who has access to health and fitness, who gets to be fit, who's seeing themselves represented. And so my definition of health and fitness keeps expanding. But, our mission statement at Girls Gone Strong, which you helped us create, Colleen, is we create evidence-based interdisciplinary health, fitness, nutrition, and pregnancy education for women and professionals who work with them, because we believe when women feel strong, confident, and empowered in their lives and bodies, we can change the world. And so fitness is the vessel. I know it gives it, yeah.
It still gives me chills, Molly. Every time I hear it, it still gives me chills. It's so good.
I know. Well, and so fitness is the vessel through which we carry out this mission, because we understand that, helping women get access to and learn how to eat, more whole and processed foods, and to move their bodies in ways they enjoy, and to feel strong. Like, we think that's such a powerful catalyst for helping them do the important work that they're here to do. And we know it helps them feel strong, confident, and empowered. And we believe strong, confident, empowered women can change the world. So yes, I still have a huge passion for working out. When COVID is not happening, then I am in the gym doing a lot of strength training. I'm currently not going to the gym. I'm in Arizona and I'm close to some mountains. So I'm doing a lot of hiking, but still I've got a barbell and some dumbbells and plates and stuff in my backyard. So I'm still working out a significant amount. It's just kind of what I'm doing is shifted from like 80% lifting, 20% walking, to like 75, 80% hiking, like 20, 25% lifting, which is fantastic. It's like, I get to do things that I love, move my body in ways I enjoy, get sunshine. And one of the things that I am proudest of, I've done some pretty cool stuff in health and fitness, but moving my body at least 2 to 3 times a week for the last 17 years, like, one of the things that I am proudest of is staying consistent and caring for myself and my body in that way.
Awesome. I want to ask a really important question from an 11-year-old named Emma P. Emma is
Mm,
from Frankfurt, and Emma wants to know, what is the hardest thing you've had to overcome as a woman?
mm. Emma, that is such a good question. And I love that you are interested in this type of information and that you're already seeking this out at 11 years old. You are going to do big things, Emma. I would say the hardest thing that I've had to go through or overcome is getting to a place where I care less about what other people think of me and care more about what I think of me. I think that sums it up. That sums up the comparison, the jealousy, the, worry that I'm not good enough, the struggles in determining what my values are, making hard decisions within my organization. I think getting to a place where, overcoming jealousy and gossip and all that kind of stuff, getting to a place where I care most what I think about me and less what other people think about me. Doesn't mean I don't care at all. There are people very dear to me whose opinions matter deeply, right? But getting to a place where I feel good and steadfast in who I am and what I was put here to do has been probably the hardest and most important thing that I've ever done.
Great. I'm like ready for a teenage edition or workbook addition to this already for girls like Emma. So
Well, and
I'm
honestly,
giving you homework.
I think that is actually brings up a great point. So anybody who hasn't ordered their signed copy yet, there's a link to do so in this post. Please do it now. If you are a mother, an auntie, a sister, a grandmother, a teacher, a coach, someone who works with women, who loves women, who cares women and girls, this book, like the action steps in here, can all be adapted for girls Emma's age. You can read it. It's going to have kick off important conversations about comparison, competition, struggles with bodies, the way society talks about, women and their bodies and treats women, about, friendships that they have with other girls, about what a boundary is and setting boundaries. If I knew about setting boundaries at 11 or 12 years old, like, absolute game changer. It's going to
Amen,
talk about
Molly.
self-doubt, like overcoming self-doubt, believing in other women, recognizing all the isms, the sexism, the racism, the misogyny, the ableism. If I could recognize, if I had that type of information at this age, if I knew ways that I could lift up my friends and other girls, like the things in this book can absolutely be adapted and can kick off really important conversations with the young girls and teenagers in your life. So if you have someone in your life that you care about that's that age, I highly recommend getting this book and having these conversations with them.
So that ties into our next question, who is Kim from Madison, Connecticut. And she's a mom of a teenage girl, and she wants to help her learn to rise up and support her friends through the teen years. What is one piece of advice you would give to mom, Kim, and to the teenage girl?
Ooh, one piece of advice that I would give to help her rise up and lift up her friends in her teenage years is to absolutely start with her own confidence and believing in herself first. If I had that at that age, like today, because of the confidence that I have and the self-doubt that I have overcome, I truly get so much joy out of lifting other women up. I mean, that's why the whole first half of the book is about getting right with yourself. It is when you are struggling with yourself and believing in yourself that you're, less likely to want to support other women, less likely to, speak up in class or go out for the school play or, engage in activities that are important to you. It's when you're more likely to give in to gossiping and jumping into, bullying other girls and women, right? Like one of the first stories I talk about in the book is being on an 8th grade field trip and being bullied by my friends. And the next day, another girl became the target. And instead of me having empathy for her, I jumped in and bullied her with the other girls because I wanted to be accepted, because I wanted that love and belonging, because I was struggling with feeling like I wasn't good enough. So the absolute number one first thing that I would do is get right with yourself and believe in who you are and feel good. And again, there's steps to do it in here. It's not just a rah believe in yourself. It's like, no, there's actually ways to start believing in yourself in here. And you will truly be a girl who wants to support other girls, and you will be less likely to be torn down if they're mean to you or if they gossip about you or whatever the other stuff happens in your life. If you are right with yourself, sweet girl, you will be a girl who lifts other girls up.
I love that. I learned a great trick from Brene Brown about having a Post-it note of the names of people whose voices really matter to me, and using that as like a filter for how I take in information. If your name's not on this list, it doesn't mean that I don't care what you have to say. It just means I'm going to take it in a little bit different. I'm not going to like take it to heart. And I can do that because I know myself, right? So I love that advice of learning to know and love yourself first. What goals do you have left to accomplish? What are some of the other big things you want to do? Alexandria in Houston, Texas wants to know.
Yes, that's a great question, Alexandria. Thank you. So, when I've been so consumed by this for the last 2.5 or 3 years, I mean, I want this book in the hands of every woman, girl, human who cares about women and girls, like a person of any gender who cares about women and girls. Like, I want them to have this book in their hands because I truly believe that it is going to change the world. So in addition to getting a copy of this in every single household, if you haven't got yours, you can get your signed copy at the link in this post. In addition to getting this in the hands of as many people as possible, the work that we do through Girls Gone Strong and our GGS Academy, the world's first and only academy that provides research-backed interdisciplinary certifications for health and fitness professionals who work with women. So there are no other women-specific certifications that are comprehensive, research-backed, that have all these amazing experts who come together to create the information. I know that getting more health and fitness professionals enrolled in those certifications has, again, that powerful ripple effect. Like, we've been working with women. I've been working with women for 17 years, through Girls Gone Strong for 10 years. And several years ago, we realized like we can amplify our impact so much by giving people who care about women, people who work with women, the knowledge, skills, and tools that they need to help them feel strong, confident, and empowered in their lives and bodies so they can go out and change the world. And so it's about equipping other people with the work or the skills, knowledge, and tools they need to do work that fills them up. Because being a health and fitness professional who helps women feel strong, confident, and empowered in their lives and bodies means that we get to do life-changing work that's meaningful. We get to lift women up in our everyday lives. Like, so the idea that it's like we get to give them what they need to do work they love, for their life and their work to matter, to lift other women up as a career, which is so cool. And then they get to turn around and do that same thing for other women. It's just this amazing ripple effect. So I would say, in addition to getting the book in as many hands as possible, it would be to have as many current and aspiring people who are health and fitness professionals or want to help women take the certifications from our GGS Academy would be the next big goal, because the ripple effect of that and what those people can do in the world is just immeasurable.
Awesome. I think we probably have time for a couple more questions. So I have one that I have queued up, but if anyone on watching has another question, feel free to ask that question as well, and we will try to get to that one as well. Sabrina in Nashville, Tennessee wants to know, is there a female that you consider to be your idol, someone you've looked up to as a young girl or now?
That's a great question. So I talk about in chapter 10 of the book, the amazing, strong women that I was surrounded by growing up. Both of my grandmothers were incredible. My dad's mom, she volunteered, I think, until she was 94. She volunteered 6 days a week. She worked at community soup kitchens and the Center for Creative Living. She got to carry the Olympic torch in 1996 for her work and her the volunteer work that she did in Kentucky. She was just an incredible woman. My mom's mom, her name's Helen. She was a tutor her whole life. She tutored kids or math coach and tutored kids in math. She started a daycare center, a free daycare center for at-risk kids in her hometown of Owensboro, Kentucky. She started a letter writing campaign to public officials in the early 90s talking about human trafficking. She just an incredible human. She had the honor of marching with Dr. Martin Luther King, I think in 1964, in the March on Frankfurt in Kentucky. So both of them were forward-thinking, progressive activists. My mom, she was chair of the Rape Crisis Center and put together their Take Back the Night marches. She I can't remember the exact name of the organization, but worked to help house and resettle El Salvadorian refugees, political refugees seeking asylum in the 80s. And I think started the Lexington Community Sanctuary is what it's called. So I come from a long line of powerful, amazing, progressive, kind-hearted women who wanted to do good in the world. So certainly I grew up watching all of that. And, I think it's one of those things that, like, when you're a kid, it doesn't always kind of penetrate you. Like, you see it and you just think it's normal because it's just what everybody does. Everybody's like doing their activist stuff and caring for other people. And so I don't know that I fully understood the magnitude of who they were and just how amazing they were, probably until the last 5 or 10 years. But it has been such a joy to look back and see where they planted seeds in my life for caring so much about women. So I would say they would have to be my biggest female role models when it comes to lifting other women up and changing the world with the work that I do.
Yeah, you definitely come from a long line and you're continuing that line, and it's great to see. I'm going to go with one last question unless we get another one after this one. But Christina from Greensboro, North Carolina, what would be your top advice as how to keep the momentum of change moving forward?
I love it. Keep the momentum of change moving forward. So obviously, I think the first thing to do would be to get this book so that you have the tools in your hands that you need to lift other women up. There's a link to do it in this post. If you haven't gotten your copy yet, I'd love for you to get a signed copy. But I think the most important thing that we have to remember to keep the momentum going is that small change adds up. So thinking that we have to carve out 30 minutes or 60 minutes or 90 minutes a day to do these big, grandiose acts of lifting women up, that's overwhelming. And it's just creates such a barrier between us doing the things that we want to do in the world. So I think believing and understanding, so I think getting this book so that you can understand how small changes add up to massive impact is going to be the most important thing for keeping this momentum of this going. And then gifting this book to other women, talking about it with other women, sharing it with them. Like you said, Colleen, in the conclusion, we say, we need you. And that means all of us. And so the more people who have the tools and skills to get right with themselves so that they become strong women who want to lift other women up, the more our collective impact together is going to make such a huge impact. So we need every single one of us. So if you know a strong woman, if you care about a strong woman or girl, like, gifting them this will not only deepen your relationship with them, but it's also going to give them what they need to start making the change that that all of us have to come together if we're going to create the type of change that we're going to create in the world. So get this book, gift this book to women that you care about, girls that you care about, anyone who who cares about girls, and then understand. And even in doing that, you are buying and supporting me as a woman who wrote this book. You are doing something nice for another woman. You are essentially giving her a compliment saying, hey, I think you're a strong woman who lifts other women up, or I think you have the capacity and potential to create great change. I care about you. I want this for you. There are so many different things in just buying it and gifting it and giving it to someone else that are lifting other women up. And then, understand that those small acts add up to enormous impact and change, and that we need you and the special gifts that you have and your superpowers.
Love it, Molly. So as we wrap up, I don't see any other questions that have come in as of right now, but as we wrap up, I just want to take a second and just let you know how proud I am of you. I started it with this, but I really, truly want to end with this because I know how much work has gone in to you creating this powerful work. And my ask of everyone that's on here and watching this is not just to get the book and not just to share the book, but to give yourself the privilege of doing the work in the book too. This is one of those books that you don't want to just pick up and read and flip through the pages. Like, give yourself the privilege and the gift of doing the work in the book as well, because that is how change happens. And I know, Molly, you and I are so similar. We talk about this all the time. Like, we don't want people to just know things. We want them to do something with the information that they have. And I think that's what would make you feel the most proud, is someone actually creating change in their lives and in the lives of others from the work that they do, from the book that you've written. So I'm so proud of you. You are brilliant. You are beautiful. You are strong. You are courageous. And one of the things that I admire most about you is you live and have the heart for truly lifting other women up. This is not just a book that you wrote. I said, when I texted you after I read the book the first time, this is not just a hashtag for you. This is who you are and a way of life. And my life is immensely better because of you. So thank you, my dear friend Molly. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Colleen. I'm so grateful to know you. So happy for all the ways that our lives are intertwined and the ways that this book is intertwined. And I just love you. Thank you for this.
Yes. Lauren, are you with us still? Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining us. And we hope that you will get the book. Make sure you tag Molly on social media when you get your copy of the book at the Molly Galbraith. Is that right, Molly?
At the Molly Galbraith on Instagram. So go to the link in the Premier Collectibles post right here. Make sure you order your signed copy and tag me, and you can tag Premier Collectibles when you get it.